the economy has gone into a recession, and the government is trying to manipulate and manage their headlines in order to counter this very stark and hard fact that India's economy is in a recession. The history of independent India, the Indian economy has gone into a recession as defined by economists. RBI has predicted that India will record a positive growth rate in the third quarter. There is no evidence of that. Nearly 1.5 months of the third quarter have already gone by, and there are no major indicators of growth becoming positive in the third quarter. The government has done nothing to bring back the lost jobs or to create new jobs. The unemployment rate as on 11th of November 2020 stands at 6.4%. Good evening, friends of the media. For the first time after data was recorded, and according to some newspapers, for the first time in the history of independent India, the Indian economy has gone into a recession as defined by economists. The second quarter, according to the RBI, is expected to decline by 8.6%. A successive two-quarter negative growth is a recession. Remember, this is year on year. Remember that last year, the first quarter of 2019-20 recorded a growth rate of 5.2%, while the first quarter of this year recorded minus 23.9%. Similarly, the second quarter of 2019-20 recorded a growth of 4.4%, and the second quarter of this year is expected to record minus 8.6%. There is nothing to be pleased about a recession. This means that we are not able to catch up with even the tepid growth rates recorded in the corresponding quarters of 2019-20. I'm afraid that the remaining two quarters of 2020-21 will also record negative growth rates. It is surprising that the finance minister should quote the RBI and say that RBI has predicted that India will record a positive growth rate in the third quarter. There is no evidence of that. Nearly 1.5 months of the third quarter have already gone by, and there are no major indicators of growth becoming positive in the third quarter. According to me, the need of the economy, the need of the hour is four things, and I'm going to list the four. Firstly, farmers must get fair and remunerative prices for their produce. Only a small fraction gets the MSP. The farm bills have put even that in jeopardy. Government has done nothing to ensure MSP for more farmers. Two, the very poor are outside the formal economy. They are the persons who have lost their jobs or livelihood. Unless money is put in their hands, they will not be able to contribute to the revival of demand and consequent revival of economy. It is necessary that a scheme like Nyay must be implemented, a demand we have been making for the last year. Three, as far as the formal economy is concerned, the government has done nothing to bring back the lost jobs or to create new jobs. The unemployment rate as on 11th of November 2020 stands at 6.4%. 4. State governments are expected to cut their capital expenditure by nearly 2.7 lakh crore. That is about 50% of the budgeted expenditure at the beginning of the year. The center is starving the states of funds and doling out measly amounts. Unless more money is devolved to state governments, capital expenditure will not rise. On the same day, we got two other pieces of bad news also. The first piece of bad news is, after demonetization in 2016, the infant mortality rate rose to 2.9% in calendar 2017 and further to 3.1% in calendar 2018. Yet the government wants to celebrate demonetization. Demonetization affected millions of Indians. In fact, it affected all except the central government. The most affected appear to be infant children. Inequality continues to increase. As per a report available yesterday and today, the top 1% of India's population has captured 21% of the national income. I wonder if the government is aware of these numbers and what the government is doing to address the dire situation in which the economy is. So let's not celebrate the minus 8.6%. It is a matter of deep regret that the economy has gone into a recession and the government is trying to manipulate and manage their headlines in order to counter this very stark and hard fact that India's economy is in a recession. See, for the last several months, liquidity has not been a problem of the Indian economy. In fact, there is adequate and more liquidity, which is why the policy rates are very low. Therefore, liquidity is not the issue. The issue is money must flow into the hands of different sections of the people. Money is not flowing into their hands, and therefore there is no revival of demand. There is revival of demand in one or two sectors, but not across the board. Therefore, I entirely agree with you. They are addressing a non-existent problem. Liquidity is a non-existent problem today, and there is no point addressing liquidity. What you need to address is the capacity of people to spend, and that is not being addressed. And I want to add to what Jairam said a little earlier. The finance ministers announced a number of enhancements of capital expenditure. We are today on the 12th of November. By the time these announcements go through the process of Department of Expenditure and Cabinet, then goes to the Controller of General Accounts, it will surely be December. How do the sectors to which you have announced additional capital expenditure spend it in the month of January, February, March? In fact, you've already imposed a limit on what you can spend in January, February, March. Yes. So none of these additional allocations announced today will be spent before 31st of March. I think the FM knows that. The Secretary of Expenditure knows that. Yet they go ahead and announce additional allocation, which money will not be spent before 31st of March. Because already the Department of Expenditure, with approval of FM, has imposed caps on fourth quarter expenditure. So don't be carried away by these grand numbers that are being announced as extra expenditure. See, there is nothing in the announcements today or earlier which brings back the jobs that were lost. Sector by sector is already represented to the government how many jobs have been lost. Jobs have been lost in the software sector, jobs have been lost in the retail sector, jobs have been lost in many other sectors, MSMEs, huge number of jobs have been lost. What are you doing to bring back the jobs? If jobs are coming back, why should the unemployment rate continue to rise? And remember, the unemployment rate is increasing even when the total labor force is shrinking, which means people are leaving the labor force. They have no hope of getting a job, therefore they're no longer looking for a job. On the one hand, the labor force is shrinking. On the other hand, the unemployment rate is rising, which means jobs are not coming back. And the government must address the issue of how to bring back the lost jobs. If the government does nothing, someday or other, the economy's size will be $5 trillion. If there is no government in India also, it will reach $5 trillion someday or other. The point is it going to take 5 years to reach 5 trillion or 10 years to reach 5 trillion? I'll make a prediction today. Whenever we reach 5 trillion, in 7 or 8 years from that date, it will become 10 trillion. That is also a prediction I can make, but it's a completely meaningless prediction because the economy, even if it grows at a tepid rate, it will reach 5 trillion some year, and it will reach 10 trillion in some year, it will reach 20 trillion in some year. So these are mesmerizing slogans. Economists know, and any student of economics know, that these have no meaning at all. The question is, what is the size of the economy today and how fast it is growing? In 2019-20, according to the budget, the size of India's economy was 200 lakh crore rupees. Note down that number, 200 lakh crore rupees. Today, our economy is at least 10-12% less than 200 lakh crore. Instead of the cake growing, instead of 200 lakh crore growing, the cake has shrunk. It is no longer 200 lakh crore rupees. That's the point that you and your readers must know. That the economy has shrunk, which is what a recession is.
अगर आपको हमारे वीडियोस पसंद आए तो प्लीज लाइक करें, सब्सक्राइब करें और शेयर करें।